Good morning, Ben. Thanks for joining our Business Spotlight. Really keen to hear about your business and the history of what's been going on there. So over to you, please.
Thanks, Milton. Really appreciate the opportunity. So I'm the Managing Director of Australian Turntable Company. We started the company in 1987. My parents started back then when I was a young fella back in the olden days. And what the company does now is it focuses on designs, manufactures, installs a lot of different ranges of rotating equipment, so turntables. Where we actually started was in the display industry, in the exhibition industry. So we built some turntables and we would hire them out to companies, typically car companies that wanted, for motor exhibitions and things like that. And that was actually a fortuitous entry into what we've become now, because we had to build a product that was modular, had to be transported all over the country. It had to be reliable because the client certainly couldn't handle the turntable not working when they'd paid for that service for their exhibition, and we had to be able to maintain the product. So all those things sort of developed skills that we still use and apply into our business today. In about, it must have been late 90s, the exhibition industry started to die off for us. We had some competition, and we really, when we looked at it, we saw that we weren't being innovative or looking, diversifying or improving ourselves or our product. We had a good business that was operating well, and we were happy with that, and we sort of didn't really improve on it in any way. And of course, others saw that it was a good business, so they came in and really took a big chunk of our customers. So that was a big lesson for us at that time. We had to make a decision: do we keep doing this, or do we look at something else? And we decided we saw some other opportunities out there. We recognised where we'd failed, and we thought that, listen, we got the capability to do this better. So we started looking outside the exhibition industry, and there was no real market for the opportunities that we saw in say residential car turntables for people's driveways. But we did see an opportunity. We'd solved a couple of issues for some architects just on some custom projects, and we thought, these solutions that we provided could apply to more people in the market. So what we did, we looked internal, we rebuilt the business, and what we recognised was that if we went down this path, what we'd be actually selling to the customer was safety by eliminating reverse manoeuvres, increasing productivity, so production improvement, and doing that in restricted space. So as being able to optimise space for a customer. Once we understood those three things, that's actually what our business was going to be built upon. Then it really opened up our opportunities in different industries, in different markets, and globally. So we started then building a market around pretty much, we focused on Sydney and Melbourne at the start, and we built the market around looking for any opportunity where a vehicle might enter into a property or development in a high density area. So Sydney and Melbourne were perfect places to start. And we started selling the idea that, listen, if you consider a turntable into whether it's a development or a project, that you could improve your safety, save some space, and do that process more efficiently. we've really we've been successful at entering new markets. So we now supply turntables on mine sites, in tunnel infrastructure projects, construction sites, but also a lot of turntables in residential driveways, in loading docks, for trucks to enter and exit in a forward direction. There's a lot of other opportunities. We do a lot of custom space, all focused around the rotational movement. So that was really the beginning of that kicked us off, and we've been continually building and improving from there on.
So how did your parents get into this business, Ben? Which obviously you then followed, but
yeah, well, mum and dad were we lived in a pub in a small country town. So the obvious step was to move into a turntable manufacturing business.
No.
What happened was actually my grandfather, Dad's father, he was an old engineer in Colac. So he'd service the farming community with engineering, just engineering work. And he was one of those old blokes, like me and you, Milton, no hair on his head, but he, missing a lot of teeth, but a tough old bugger. And he worked up until his late 80s in the shed.
Right, yeah.
Even though, so just one of those tough old buggers. It's just what he did. Got up and went to work every morning, and he loved it. But what he found was going to work in his 80s was that he was struggling to reverse out of his driveway because he couldn't turn his head around. So he decided to build himself a turntable, and so he built a turntable, and it worked really well for him. So he thought, this is a great idea. This works great for me. It gives me my mobility back in a big way. So mum and dad left the pub, and my grandfather said, "Listen, I know you're looking for something to do. Here's an idea. I think it's worked well, and you should look into it." And so mum and dad then did look into it. They thought, okay, there's no real market for driveway turntables at this time, but they did see that opportunity in the exhibition industry. But then obviously we always had that reference that, okay, there was a potential for entering into a different market through driveway turntables, and it grew from there.
What a great story. So who'd be your ideal customer now, Ben?
So we really service a wide range of customers, and I mean by that, so we're talking directly to in the residential space. We're talking directly to homeowners who are looking at the opportunity. We talk to architects to help with the design phase, and developers. So we help with the design phase by, in a lot of cases, if we install a turntable on a project, it actually gives some space back to the architect and the developer. So what they can do with that saved space, they can create an extra car space or an extra room on the house, which has a value. All right. So we spend a lot of time helping architects and developers and homeowners create more value in their home. Plus meet some council requirements, which councils nowadays are forcing. It doesn't matter whether it's a home build or a commercial build, they're forcing vehicles to enter and exit in a forward direction, and that's becoming more and more common. So we assist them with that. But then the customers who normally purchase of us are builders, construction companies. So we spend a lot of time with them as well. And then further down the life cycle, as we come to servicing the product, we're spending a lot of time with body corporates and homeowners, again, maintaining their product for the life of the product. So we're still in a phase of introducing the idea. There's a lot of people who don't know about turntables and the benefits of them, and they certainly don't realise that there's a company in Australia that, you know, we manufacture our own product. It's fully, you know, it's all 100% manufactured here at our facility. We install it and service it. So there's a lot of people who don't know about us. So we're focusing on all those ranges, all those industries, and all those peoples in the different part of the sales cycle.
Yeah, Ben, I noticed when I was researching that you're based in Kangaroo Flat, but
Yep.
also you're getting into the mining industry too, and overseas. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, we're not very smart people, so, you know, we see an opportunity and just decide, yeah, let's do it, you know. And early on we saw there's only 6 companies like us in the world, right? There's a lot of people there's a lot of companies that might build a turntable here and there, but there's only 6 companies around, and there's probably less now, that specialise in rotational equipment like we do. So as we were, you know what it's like when you're building a company and certainly building a market, you're looking for opportunities wherever you can get them to keep the business running and get some jobs in the door. So we looked wider. You know, there wasn't a lot of opportunity, not a lot of business for us in Kangaroo Flat, so we looked wider. And then once we looked outside into the different areas of Australia, then we thought, listen, we can do this overseas. They're the same benefits. People have the same constraints overseas, so there could be a market, and there's not really obviously anyone out there doing that like us. So yeah, but we sort of jumped into it without really knowing what we were getting into, which wasn't a real smart way to do it. But we did it, and we did win some jobs. So we won some projects in the Middle East and other parts of the world, building revolving restaurants and all sorts of things in different areas of the world. And then, you know, just really sometimes you gotta learn the hard way, which is the way we've done it in the past. And we just got out there and delivered the projects. I think the thing that made us successful is we're always really focused on. We're very customer focused. It's kind of like we've brought that hotelier mentality of looking after the customer. That is really our core focus in the business. So when you do that, you want to make sure, okay, if we're going to install a revolving restaurant in Dubai, we better make sure it's a really good one, and it doesn't break down all the time. So that led us to winning projects and getting recognised for that. And we built the world's largest revolving restaurant at 50 metres and installed that in Iran. That was a incredible project, but that's just built on from there. But now we really service our export markets through distributors, and we're building that network as we go. But it's growing well.
Ben, what's the biggest learning you've had since being in business?
I've had plenty of learnings. I think we've always believed in what we're doing, and I feel like if you have that belief and you have that honest belief that what you're doing is the right thing, then you'll make it successful. And you have to be prepared to. You also have to be very persistent and be prepared to go through tough times. We're certainly going through them now, but we know that we've been through tough times before, and we know we have the belief in our product, and our whole team does. We've got a team of people who believe in what we do, and believe that we're great at what we do, and that we bring value to the customer. And with that persistence, that's really given us a drive to get through the periods where where they're tough conditions. But knowing that you'll come out the other side if you can keep persisting, is a big one. The other one is we've learned, through it's a long-term strategy. I know people see a lot of, you see a lot of news stories about these teenage millionaires who become a millionaire overnight. That whilst, that sounds wonderful, it's not 99.9% of people won't experience that. So if you're not going to be an overnight millionaire, then you need to be prepared for the long haul. And it's a slow process, and you'll get knocked down, but if you can dust yourself off and get back up again, then that persistence will prove hopefully to be a successful one. It has been for us, but we've certainly wondered along the way, how the hell are we going to get out of this one? But we've always done it.
So Ben, what have been some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome in the business?
Well, early on it was building the market. So, we were around, I still remember doing our advertising through the yellow pages, and if you got a quote every couple of weeks, you're pretty happy with that. The biggest challenges we've had is really having to learn so many different disciplines. So we had to learn how to become manufacturers. We had to learn how to design, and we had to learn our customers' business as well. We had to learn, what made an architect tick, or how do we make ourselves a good supplier to a construction industry. So I think really investing in not only your team, and often you have to do that by yourself. So you have to cover a lot of areas of the business yourself. So really invest in that, but invest in your team, but also invest in your customers as well. Really understanding what's important to them, and building your service that makes it, as easy as possible for your client, and then they will certainly grow. You'll get a reputation that they respect, that you're a good company to work with. You're still going to have the battles of fighting against cheaper competition, and that's been another challenge we've had to do. Compete against products from overseas markets that are cheaper, but we've learned ways to mitigate that, and building that reputation that the customer, they can see and they can understand that, okay, listen, I might be paying a little bit more, but the value in what Australian Turntables brings is in comparison to a competitor is so much greater over the life of the product. But some of the other ones are managing the financial, investing in so many things, so many new markets and new products. That's something that we've done a lot of, and sometimes we've gone and invested in things that we shouldn't have made those mistakes. But as I said before, in a lot of cases we learned the hard way. But we do learn the lesson, and we get better. We get better as we go.
Ben, what have you learned about yourself during this journey?
Again, I've learned heaps. Naturally, I never would have seen myself in this position ever before. So it wasn't something that came naturally to me. But I've learned that if you again invest in what you're doing, and you believe in what you're doing, then you can achieve anything. So I've certainly learned that whilst I was never educated in anything, I didn't have a degree, or I didn't have a trade or anything like that. I realised I've had the ability to become quite knowledgeable in a lot of those things. But yeah, it's not a thing I naturally do is go into these things with confidence. But what I do learn is, okay, when I actually get in and have a crack and try and get my head into it, I can learn enough to be dangerous anyway. And probably got a little bit more self confident over the past 10 years, which has been, you look back and think, okay, that's a good thing.
Ben, how do you find your inspiration each day to do what you do?
I mean, so you ask me on different days, and I'll certainly give you a different answer. But truly, we have. I think the thing in this business, and I work with mum and dad still work in the business, and I've got two brothers who work in it as well, and the team that we've got around us, we see very clearly the opportunity on what this company can become. So we see this business as in its infancy. We're 35 years old, but we're really at the foundation stage. We're still at the foundation stage, although we're getting close to building that foundation that is going to launch something that's going to be amazing. So it's taken us a long time, but the reason why we've kept at it for so long and through some tough times has been a belief in what this company could be and can be and is heading towards. And we can see the improvement. So we do regularly look back and say, okay, we're better than we were 10 years ago, we're better than we were 5 years ago, and we're better than we were 12 months ago. So we're continually improving, and they're probably the things that help us keep slugging away. Is the belief in the opportunity ahead of us, and that we are heading towards that goal with a really good team.
Do you have any favourite quotes or sayings that help keep you focused?
Oh, listen, I don't. I haven't got any that come to mind. Probably none that are suitable for this type of forum. But I do. I do certainly. I've read some books. There's a book, No Man's Land. I can't remember the author. And certainly the Jim Collins stuff. We do refer ourselves to that regularly, to those things. I mean, I've got a couple that we've used in the business, and we say it in a joking manner, but particularly even when we're faced with a challenge, is we just say we can do it, and that's how we'll finish off the conversation, saying to the team we can do it, because we've proven that we have. No matter what we're faced with, we've always come up with something that is a solution and leaves the project with a good product at the end of the day. That was it. But when the old man was working in the business every day, we always had Silly Friday. So someone would say something stupid, and then it was it's Silly Friday. But I think having some humour, having the ability to laugh in business is really important. Not take yourself too seriously, and that if you believe that you can do it and you will get to a result, okay, we can have a laugh about things along the way, and that makes life a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah. What would you say to someone thinking of going into business?
Listen, I'd say be prepared for a really challenging time. But if you believe in your product and you believe in what you're doing, or believe in your service, what you might bring to the market, then in my view, in most cases you'll be okay. You'll work your way through it. But it is a massive challenge. It's a massive challenge, and you have to, you're going to question yourself along the way, and you're going to wonder why the hell are you doing this. And I still have periods where I do that, but we've just got that belief in what we do. So I think if you do have that belief, and you honestly think that what you're bringing is something that's better or great value, then I think it's a very rewarding thing. But do not go into it thinking it's going to be an easy ride. It's a very tough thing to take on.
Ben, what would you do if you started the business again? What would you do differently?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's interesting, Milton. We've had a lot of consultants come into the business along the way, and a lot of people come and help us, and a lot of really good people come and try and work us through different periods of the business. I think, particularly in our case, and I think in a lot of cases, there's things that are industry learned, and there's practices that are excellent practices. But I think over time, but we need to also understand that when a business is in its infancy and growing, you can't apply all of those processes to a growing business. Sometimes you've got to just do what it takes to survive. That being said, the moment that you can afford to bring people who are better than you at certain aspects of the business into the business, then do it. Don't expect that it's going to become. It's going to solve all your issues overnight. But it will make you better. So I think I would. It would have been good if I got an education, 100%, in a relevant field. That would have helped. That would have saved us a lot of time. I think, maybe taking some things a little bit slower, selecting some projects, or some, going overseas and setting up something overseas, maybe take them a little bit slower, and I think we could have done that a little bit smarter. But certainly getting really good, as good a people as you can around you as soon as possible. Then that's what I would have. Right. I would have done a little bit earlier in our business.
And Ben, what's the best advice you would give to your 18-year-old self? Well,
sometimes I want to think, go overseas and stay over there and don't get involved in turntables. But yeah, listen, the best advice I probably could have given myself is, listen, just have the confidence to do what you feel's right. So we, certainly a long time we've had to make decisions based on gut feel. Sometimes they're wrong, but a lot of times they're right, and they're the right thing to do. But just have the confidence in that, not stress too much about it. But yeah, probably understanding that, yeah, getting that education a little bit earlier, in a field might have made the next 10 or 20 years a little bit easier.
And Ben, finally, what do you see the future like for your business, and what are the main challenges moving forward?
Yeah. So probably the future for our business is, we've developed a number of products that are not anywhere else in the world. We're starting to expand in a much bigger way across Australia and globally. So we're again, I think we're in our early stages, But we're at that launch. We're really at that launch stage where we become a lot more commonly known, and people are aware of us in the different industries that we work in. So I'm expecting, I think we've got our target industries fairly well defined, with heavy industry, mining, but also continuing on the construction, the residential projects that we do. We've got a lot of growth there. For example, I mean, we install about 200 car turntables into people's driveways a year in Australia. So we're growing those markets across the world, but there's a lot more market opportunity in Australia with people that don't know about us. With the truck turntables, about 50. And again, the same. So we see a lot of growth potential in Australia, but really we see that export markets will overtake Australia in time. So we're investing in those. We've actually set up a company in India and employ a couple of people over there. A little bit of an unusual place to start a turntable company. However, I think it's going to prove to be a successful one. As people may not realise, but the cost of land per square metre in Mumbai is much more expensive than what it is in Sydney. So if we can make a market in Australia with a fairly low population, the business model does transfer well to places of high density, and India and others are included. So we've got some exciting things to do, opportunities for growth there. The challenges we've got is managing the growth, and this is something that I've certainly learned, particularly over the last few years. Moving from a $5 million company to a $10 and $12 million company is a huge challenge, and that's what this book, No Man's Land, is all about. It's a period where businesses have to implement process, have the right people on board, and we're working our way through that at the moment. That's probably our biggest one is managing the growth, because you need a lot of money and good people around you to do that well.
Ben, thanks for your time as well. It's been excellent. Really good to hear the story and the journey you've been through. Really enlightening. Thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate the opportunity, Melvin.